When people are willing stewards, wildlife flourish and communities thrive.
70% of all the wildlife is found outside the national parks, which means if 70% is outside the national parks, we have a critical area where the wildlife is found, and that is the conservancies.
This Community Conservancies has acted as another buffer that has provided adequate space, ample grazing space for the wild animals.
Conservancies are a recognized land use under the Wildlife Act 2013. They provide connected landscapes that complement national parks and reserves while enabling communities to benefit from wildlife management and in turn be at the heart of championing conservation efforts.
Ministry, in its strategies and programs, has then realized that it is critical, it is important, it is imperative to support conservancies, and especially community conservancies, in terms of infrastructure development, like access roads, because when you have access roads, then you open up the areas, you find that communities have a way of transport, you promote trade, education, even those going for health services are able to use the roads.
We took to the road to experience the transformative effect of the roads and water projects by the State Department for Wildlife to the communities of Kenya living within wildlife ecosystems to have an insight of human-wildlife coexistence. Over the next couple of minutes, we'll take you on a journey of the various community wildlife conservancies and how the infrastructural upgrading projects impact them. Our first stop is the Ilngwesi by the Laikipiak community. It was one of the first community-led conservation initiatives in northern Kenya, set up with a vision to sustainably manage the environment in order to graze livestock and conserve wildlife. It was hoped to encourage tourists too. The move paid off, and thus the Ilngwesi was born.
The word Ilngwesi means people of wildlife. Historically, this community has been living with wildlife since time immemorial. Basically, Ilngwesi is a community conservancy that comprises of 80,675 hectares. It's owned by 7,000 members who, under the Group Ranches Act of 1972, they formed a group ranch where all the members have the rights of ownership.
The Conservancy serves as a vital part of the migratory paths that extend south to Mount Kenya, as well as home to black rhinos, African wild dogs, gravy zebra, gerenuk, reticulated giraffes, and other rare species. More than 400 bird species have been identified in the Conservancy, and it is listed as an important bird area.
The Conservancy model is such that it is multiple land use. The land is managed through a management plan that allows you to do wildlife conservation, do tourism, do cattle ranching, do crop agriculture, and many other means, but in a very regulated, in a very organized way.
The Conservancy has also developed sustainable land use plans, which includes grazing management plans drawn up by a dedicated grazing committee. Bunched herding of cattle and designated grazing blocks are proving to help rehabilitate the rangeland, benefiting both the livestock and the wildlife that graze the same plains and ensuring the sustainability of the natural resources. Neighboring the Ilongwesi is the Lekuruki Community Conservancy that lies on a vast land of 60,000 acres owned by the Mukogodo Maasai.
We have provided a budget for wildlife in community areas in a bid to incentivize communities, in a bid to appreciate them providing space, critical space for wildlife. So I have to do a fair and balanced budgeting.
The money generated, of course, the community gets a share, they get scholarships, and they also do other community projects emanating from the conservancies. So that concept of the conservancy model has actually promoted a kind of a very good friendship between the Kenya Wildlife Service and the communities, and has even made the communities now to protect the animals because of the benefit that they get from it.
This year we'll be able to allocate 4 million for students going for higher learnings. And the community will be benefiting those that have kids in schools. A student from this community going for a day school will be going with 10,000. A student in secondary school will be getting 20,000 shillings. A student from this community going for college studies will be getting 30,000. And a university student will be taking 60,000. And remember, this is only for the first term.
Water is a critical resource, and lack of water is one of the major causes of the conflict, because animals and human beings are competing for the water, and therefore the ministry has found it very critical to support the conservancies in the provision of water.
Out of the revenue, we have done the borehole. A borehole that has been done from the lodge here and provides water to the community 7 kilometers away from here. If you go to the tanks here, all tanks are full, flowing, just simply because of the borehole.
At Nginyi in Laikipia, the State Department for Wildlife has rehabilitated a borehole and equipped it with a solar system to enable the residents access clean water. Sharing the same wildlife corridor is a Westgate Community Conservancy. Established in 2004, the Westgate landscape is dominated by acacia scrubland and dotted with rocky outcrops. It is a perfect spot for wildlife encounters and provides a private experience of the African bush. Its ecological importance as a wildlife corridor for animals migrating between the river and the neighboring conservancies cannot be overstated, as it is positioned between the Ewasonyiro to the south and the Samburu National Reserve to the east. The Conservancy aims to promote wildlife conservation and allow the Samburu community to benefit from tourism while protecting this wilderness and the many wildlife species living on their land. The road infrastructure is a key development that will connect communities and allow the Samburu people to keep enjoying their pastoral way of life, all the while reaping benefits as conservancy custodians.
Wakati ya zamani hatuna barabara, tulikuwa tu na kanyaga msituni, mpaka Isiolo, mpaka Ajas, mpaka Wamba. Kwa hivyo, zaidi nzuri inatusaidia kwa sababu niliambiwa barabara, sasa hakuna pahali inaweza kataa kwenda. Na sapata shida fulani, sababu kana mgonjwa anapata barabara kwenda hospitali, au saa nyingine watoto wa shule napata means ya kwenda, alafu tuko na conservancy.
Grade 7 8 tuingie darasa. Kama shule tumesaidika kwa sababu pia upande wa mtihani KCB time kulikuwa na changamoto. Magari ya mtihani haikuwa inafika mahali hapa, inakuja kufika katikati inakwama. Barabara ilikuwa na mitaro na unakuta magari yakienda ama yakipita mahali hapo yanakwama ama inakuwa ngumu hata kukuja ama kuendeleza safari yake. Baada ya kutandazwa unakuta magari inafika mahali ilikuwa ifike, kama aswa shule na msaada inafika mahali hapo ama usaidizi.
In recent years, the government of Kenya has been encouraging community involvement in wildlife protection and conservation. This has been followed by development of infrastructure within community settlements in the conservancy areas to mitigate on human-wildlife conflict.
Community Conservancies ndio natulipa basari watoto kama tamu huu sasa, ile alikuwa amepita, kila mtoto nalipa 22,000. 22,000. Hiyo ni pesa ambayo sijatoa kwa mfuko yangu. Kwa hivyo saa hii kulimwa na mtu mgonjwa, gari inaitwa, napeleka mgonjwa wetu na hakuna kulipishwa. Kwa hivyo hiyo life natusaidia sana, na hiyo pesa yote natoka wapi? Hapo.
Today, the Westgate Conservancy is a safe haven for the rare gravy zebra, which is only found in the north of Kenya and parts of Somalia, Grant's gazelle and waterbuck, among other treasured wildlife species. Set in the heart of the Rift Valley on the eastern shores of Lake Baringo lies the Ruko Wildlife Community Conservancy. It forms part of the 15 Baringo conservancies spread across the different ecological zones of the vast area.
Ruko Conservancy was established in 2002 as a peace-building and conflict resolution conservancy between the Pokots and the El Chamus. These were warring pastoralist communities who've been fighting for a long time out of resources and other intercultural issues. But the formation of Ruko was really to bring peace, and Ruko is currently owned by the Rugus community and the Komolion community. And that is where the name Ruko came about.
Joseph Lemeseri, Nati Rukus, na aljamuso nyara, na ako Rukus na manya. Na manya Rukus nigita shatana baina conservancy. Na ikutu mutagal baida kitiene weji. Na ako nikutu mulbaida amukiso mengara. Na ako nikutu msiage yo mtuku pawake teine weji pa. Kinjo ite na ba conservancy na ako keto akeso mbanda yo poko tupi. Na milikori keso mbanda yo poko tangara kari terita tongana na mbariria pa yo tatanto kunikinjo yenya conservancy.
Kurena anta kana tomgre agukuri nyanyo tete le Ruko nyoni nyike chama cha mbolo tinika mwaele tukujuni chorewo iputu kujuni le no mbolo tie mite ita ko ata mingo kya kmende mikingo weta kwam le kya le kibecho besenye le mi ba le kya kambaja.
The coexistence of human and wildlife is apparent in Ruko, as witnessed by the movement of herders in the rangelands, human settlement around the peripheries, and the continual thriving of wildlife. Ruko Conservancy has targeted the long-term conservation of Rothschild giraffe as its flagship. In the past, habitat fragmentation, poaching, insecurity and climate change had seen the gradual depletion of the Baringo giraffe from its natural habitat.
Kwa specifically huyu mnyama wetu mdogo ambaye mnaona hapa ni mtoto wa twiga ambaye tuliweza kuleta kule msitu, aliachwa na mama yake. Tulitumia kulisha hii maziwa ya kawaida, tukalisha tukaona baada ya siku mbili mnyama wetu amestawi, amerudi kawaida. Kwa sasa venye tunaona sisi tunaweza kabisa, tuliona sisi kumbe sisi tunaweza kusaidia wanyama wadogo kama hawa. Kwa kuwa kama tungeweza kupata huyu ujuzi, mnyama huyu tungepoteza kwa siku kama huu. So ndipo sasa amekuwa rafiki yangu kabisa. Mimi ndo nalishanga yeye. Asubuhi tunapea maziwa baada ya masaa mawili. Mnyama wa twiga huwa anakaa mwezi mmoja, alafu sasa anaanza kujilisha yeye mwenyewe. Sasa sisi tunaweza saidia ikifika hiyo mwezi mmoja, pia tunaweza achilia aende afuate wale wengine, tukijaribu kufuatilia baada ya siku.
In 2011, the giraffe was reintroduced among other species such as the impala, kudu and warthog. The giraffes were translocated from Soisambu in Nakuru County following an approval from Kenya Wildlife Service. At the time, the animals were placed on a fenced reintroductory site. Since then, the giraffes have settled in their home, as indicated by their gradual increase to a total of 17 in number, with a few females expectant. Ruko Conservancy offers a different kind of experience. Visiting tourists mainly access it via boat rides through Lake Baringo. Guided tours by the Conservancy rangers are offered on foot, presenting a once-in-a-lifetime experience to be one with the wild, all the while clicking away at close proximity of the giraffes. Ruko Conservancy is one of the Rift Valley Community Wildlife Conservancies earmarked for a road upgrading project.
Ruko has a sanctuary, it also has a camping site, and has good access to the Lake Baringo, and those are some of the attractions that communities can also benefit.
The Mount Suswa Conservancy story. As we continue our visit of the Rift Valley Roads and Water Upgrading Project, our next stop is the Mount Suswa Conservancy. The State Department for Wildlife opened up the Olgumi Gisharu Road, which is a 22-kilometer stretch of Maram Road under construction. Well hid between Kajiado and Narok counties and only about 50 kilometers from the capital city is a Mount Suswa. This extinct volcano is made up of a unique double crater system featuring a spectacular sunken crater within a crater. The outer crater, which is around 10 kilometers in diameter, is home to the Maasai. The landscape is dotted with manyatas, schools, a dispensary and churches. The Conservancy is developing tourism activities in Suswa to encourage community participation in biodiversity conservation and to enhance income generation.
The main objective of establishing Mount Suswa Conservancy is to protect and preserve the spectacular biodiversity, especially the caves, whereby we have the baboon parliament, we have the bird colony, we have the ceramic caves, we have the artifacts that were used by the ancient people, like the cutting stones within the caves. And also Mount Suswa has a local name called Oldonyo Lengai, which in English we call it God's dwelling place. The Maasai believe that all the rituals of the Maasai are mostly located and done in Mount Suswa because they believe that this is a God's dwelling mountain.
The caves form the largest network of underground obsidian tunnels, which are ideal for exploring. Made famous by a BBC documentary, these caves are home to the baboon parliament and an archaeological find for ancient artifacts.
Some of the artifacts found here are potteries and obsidian tools, which possibly have been used by ancient people. And also in this cave you can find some bones, maybe of ancient animals.
This unique cave system is considered the world's most complex braided system of lava tubes. Deep in the far reaches of the volcanic cave, colonies of Harrison's large-eared giant mastiff bats roost. This makes Mount Suswa Conservancy an important breeding maternity for the globally vulnerable Harrison's bat colonies. The conservancy is popular among camping and hiking enthusiasts. Named after the host town Suswa, the conservancy is only a 2-hour drive from the Nairobi city, which is why the improved roads are a welcome sight for tourists and locals alike. The community's life is interconnected with the Mount Suswa ecosystem in a symbiotic relationship. The vegetation provides livestock grazing lands, and the spouting steam jets from the crater vents are trapped by the locals to provide fresh water for both man, livestock, and farming. Being custodians of Mount Suswa Conservancy, their cultural heritage is intertwined with the conservation of the Conservancy. For them, the newly opened road is a shot in the arm that will help bring in more visitors and in turn good returns for their families.
The conservancies are an epitome of culture. I mean, they are the people who represent the culture of the communities. And therefore, one of the greatest components in tourism is cultural tourism. And these conservancies, the community conservancies, actually, if you look at their setup, they actually do a lot of promotion of culture in terms of dressing, in terms of the food, and in terms of, even the behavior and everything that they do. And therefore, these conservancies provide a very good environment for us to be able to promote cultural tourism.
Kaya najamirisho najokini itashe enkerai torbaribara natushukoki tesukul meeta ropiyiani naisaidia natum oltukutuk oloito najoki nkontum homo ntumakaki tesuswa amu ekalakuaniki ntaoni neeku esiai ena naatareto pii.
The reason why we are doing this infrastructure projects is to spur development within the community conservancies.
We really appreciate our government and through the State Department for Wildlife for constructing and improving the road to Mount Suswa Conservancy because we are able to access the tourist attractive features like the caves, the crater, and also it becomes very easy to access our homes and also the institutions that are available in Mount Suswa Conservancy.
In Kajiado County, we find the Olosira Conservancy. The custodian community has benefited from the construction of the Osewani water pan meant to service both man, livestock and the wild animals, which is a win-win for all the users. The Kasegau Choke Road.
Late last year, we received communication from State Department for Wildlife requesting us to assist them in maintaining roads inside the conservancy. We identified a major link, C1000, which totals about 57.4 kilometers.
The road crisscrosses through several ranches where community settlements have mushroomed into shopping centers servicing the community ranches.
We have clustered the road into 4 sections. The first section, Mwatate to Kamtonga, totaling 19.5 kilometers. The next section is from Kamtonga through to Choke Ranch to Mkuki, totaling 9 kilometers. The next section is from Kuki to Kampanga, that is 10.5 kilometers. And then from Kampanga to Kasigao, totaling 18.4 kilometers.
Nestled between Savo East and West National Parks is a network of community-owned ranches that serve as wildlife sanctuaries. This key ecosystem is a vital wildlife migratory corridor that protects endangered wildlife, including the African elephant, gravy zebra, and the African wild dog. All these lie in vast acreages of dry land forest that is mostly utilized for cattle ranching and wildlife conservation. Community settlements have mushroomed at the periphery of every ranch. The ranches have in turn given rise to the Community Wildlife Conservancies. This key economy is a source of livelihood for numerous families who have embraced human-wildlife coexistence as a way of life.
Ilikuwa inafikanga mahali hata pikipiki haiwezi pita pale, lakini vile mmetutengenezea hivi tumeona tofauti kidogo, kwa sababu vile mvua imenyesha, shughuli zimekuwa tu zikiendelea vizuri.
Tunashukuru watu wa wildlife kututengenezea barabara. Saa hii kutoka pale waya imewekwa, ukiingia huku tunakaa kama tuko kwa lami. Tulikuwa tunaona hata tuko kwa kichaka ya ndovu, lakini hata kama tuko kwa wanyama tunaona kama tuko town. Kama mimi ni mtu wa posho mill, mahindi yangu saa hii hata nikionda saa 3 inaingia hapa kitu saa 4. Na mbeleni ulikuwa unaonda asubuhi inakuja usiku. So tunashukuru sana. Na hata kwa wanyama wetu si ati wanatusumbua kama mbeleni, saa hii kuko sawa, wanatulindia wanyama wetu vizuri.
The new road and water projects are crucial infrastructure that have connected the communities and made life easier, all the while promoting community conservation efforts.
The communities that coexist with wildlife has quite a lot of dilemma. They have mixed feelings. On the other hand, they are very happy to participate in the conservation areas. They realize it is a good natural resource, it is our heritage, and a very big tourist attraction. But on the converse side, they get vexed and annoyed when there are conflicts. We have seen that human-wildlife conflict affects lives, affects crops, livestock, and even other livelihoods of communities. And in that regard, you find communities are not very happy when there is a conflict. Therefore, there is need to work around getting a formula of coexistence between the human and wildlife so that we can have a win-win situation.
This has been witnessed firsthand inside the Lualenyi Ranch, where cases of human-wildlife conflict have reduced drastically following the drilling of a borehole.
Tangu mradi uanze mpaka hadi leo hatujapata mtu ameuawa na wanyama kabisa. Maana kwa wanyama wametulia tu. Lakini kitambo ilikuwa mtu akarauka asubuhi, wanyama ndo hawa. Wametoka maybe Sarova kunywa maji. Kila mahali ilikuwa ni wanyama. Maana walikuwa wanatafuta maji. Lakini sasa mtu wazi mradi hajapata ripoti yote ya mtu ambaye ameona mnyama kabisa. Hata wanini waendaji waonekane. Na sasa wanyama wanafurahia. Hata binadamu wamenufaika na mradi sana kwa upande wa maji. Hakuna siku wanakosa maji.
By placing communities at the center of wildlife conservation and improving conservation incentives, conservancies in Kenya are securing livelihoods while reversing wildlife decline, resulting in the protection of Kenya's iconic wildlife for future generations.
We have shrinking space for wildlife. it's very clear that tourism continues to be a big driver of the economy of this country, and that wildlife is the biggest driver of the tourism sector. And communities and private people who own land become our critical partners in conservation. This financial year, we are moving a step forward and putting tourism facilities in some of the very high potential conservancies, community conservancies, that we feel investors might have a challenge in going there, but also just to encourage them that it's possible.
We do have a peak season and a low season. On June, July, August, September, there's high season, which is almost all the time the months, we always have the guests. So these rooms will never miss the guest because it's a staggered room, which is the first priority of the guest book the lodge, he'll book room number 1. So this room is like always having the guests all the time.
So out of all the revenue that we collect from the tourism, the beadwork also that is done by the ladies, the artifacts, these artifacts are sold. And once they are sold, 2% is plowed back again to support the conservation.
Na kolasa ino shikiri biyo. Njoshi na kigira yoka itanda nikinya. Na kaisho nyermesi na shuleng. Amukata sakata yoko orkasi imundana do. Na ekishuobu na ganashe.
My dream is that conservation becomes so beneficial to both country and people that people will want to come back and say, I own 100 acres, you own 500, you own 50. Can we bring it together and register it as a conservancy?
Conservancies are the way to go, where communities use their land for conservation and also private owners use it for conservation.